Welcome to Studio A. Our guest today is Miss Gena Brooks, the CEO of Genesis Outreach. It's going to be an exciting interview. Welcome to the studio, Miss Gena.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. I was thrilled that you were able to come in and you made your schedule available for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
Where are you from, ma'am?
I am a Fort Wayne native.
Okay.
Born and raised here. Been here all of my life, except for a short while when I relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about, so you're from Fort Wayne, born and bred. You went to what high school?
Northrop.
Northrop.
I'm a Bruin. Yeah. Proud Bruin. Absolutely.
Now let's talk about what college you went to.
Well, I went to IU Bloomington for a short semester.
Okay.
But right after high school,
All right.
like most kids do. But I realized I wasn't ready for college.
Okay.
I didn't want to waste my parents' money, so I came home. And
Let's talk about the wisdom in that.
Okay.
The wisdom in that is what?
Well,
To know yourself.
absolutely, to know yourself. I knew enough about myself that I wasn't ready for college. I did not like high school.
Okay.
I was very smart, but school was just a task that I had to complete.
Okay.
And so going to college at that time, I didn't see the benefit because I knew that I wouldn't put my all into it.
Okay.
And I really did not want to waste my parents' money.
Okay.
They would have had to pay for me. I wasn't eligible for financial aid.
Sure.
And so I chose not to go at that time.
Okay. What did you do when you came home?
I came home and I got a job. My parents were like, if you're not going to go to school, you have to go to work.
That's right.
And so I worked, and I started out at Sears Portrait Studio.
Yeah. I
Years
remember
ago.
Sears Portrait.
Yeah, I worked at that photo studio in Southtown Mall.
Okay.
And I stayed there for a while and became the manager until it shut down.
All right.
And later on, I did some other things in life. And so, yeah.
Now, when you did go back to college, where did you attend?
Purdue, Fort Wayne,
Okay. And what did you study?
nursing.
Nursing. Why nursing?
Well, as a kid, you know how you have those dreams. And I always wanted to be a nurse. And I found that I had a love for taking care of people and serving people. And I really had a love for the older generation, the mature people. And so originally when I went to school, I thought that I had planned to get my NP, become a nurse practitioner with a specialty in geriatrics.
All right.
So that was my plan.
Okay.
But again, after I finished nursing school, going on at that time was like, no way.
It wasn't for you.
No, it wasn't for me at that time.
So what did you do?
After I graduated, I moved to Charlotte and I worked in a hospital,
Okay.
Atrium Health.
How was that?
I enjoyed working with the patients, but again, I found that bedside nursing wasn't,
Your forte.
it was not for me. I enjoyed it. It was a great experience.
Okay.
I made great money,
Yeah.
but I wasn't happy at work.
And you learned that money isn't
It wasn't everything
that's
for
not
me.
the reason to do
No.
something. I love your story because you've been true to yourself the whole time. When you didn't like something, you said, I'm going to put this on hold. I'm going to do this. When you found nursing, which you were, like you said, making great money, but you decided that wasn't for you, what was next?
Well, prior to moving to Charlotte, probably back in, I think it was the year 2000, I was out of work.
Okay.
I had left the post office.
Okay.
Again, I hated it. Great money, but hated it.
Okay.
And my brother called me on the phone and he said, are you still looking for a job? And I said, yeah. He said, well, come fill out an application at Genesis.
Okay.
And so I went and I filled out the application and I met with the then CEO.
Okay.
And she hired me on the spot.
Wow.
And I said, well, I don't even know what to do. And so she kind of talked with me through some things. and I started work the very next day.
My goodness.
And so I did that for several years, and Genesis was always probably my soft spot to fall.
Okay.
When I look at significant moments in my life, it seems like Genesis was right there
That
with
it all
me.
prepared you for Genesis?
I think it prepared me for Genesis, and then Genesis prepared me for the world in a lot of ways.
Wow.
As I said, I worked there off and on for probably 15 years before I went into nursing. I actually was working there full time as I went through school.
Genesis. Okay.
I started as a residential aide, kind of like a house mother.
Okay.
Moved up and did some, what was it called, a residential coordinator, where I did paperwork.
Okay.
And then I became a case manager. Then
Okay.
I went into the housing program and ran the housing program for a while.
Okay.
So I did just about everything at Genesis except for maintenance and the CEO
Okay.
at the time.
But you're the CEO now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I really had a love for it. And I think,
Why? Why did you have a love for it?
as I said, Genesis was there at every pivotal moment in my life. It was there. It was a job for me that I enjoyed while I was going through college, that I was able to support my family. When we were homeless and we didn't have a place to live, we were one of the first people in the housing program.
My goodness.
And one of the other things that I found out as I was working there was that I dealt with alcoholism. I was an
Okay.
alcoholic, a closet alcoholic, and wasn't even able to verbalize that until I began to work with some of the women in the recovery program. And as I worked with them, I recognized things in myself that I didn't quite understand.
Okay. So it was holding the mirror up to yourself.
I really did, and I saw myself.
Okay.
And I don't think if I'd ever gone to work there, there are things about me that I don't think I would have ever realized
Okay. If you hadn't worked there.
if I hadn't worked there at all.
Okay.
I don't think I would have understood, like, that I had low self-esteem and low
Okay.
self-worth at times in my life. Some of the decisions that I made
Okay.
in my early adulthood and even in my teen years
Okay.
were made because of my lack of self-love
All right.
and traumas that had never been resolved.
Okay.
You know, I came from the period where what happens in the house stays in the house. And when traumas and things occurred, we didn't often talk about them.
Okay.
And we definitely didn't go to therapy.
Right.
And so a lot of those things have been buried inside of me. But they were making decisions for my life.
Okay.
And I didn't quite understand that
Okay.
until working at Genesis.
Until working at Genesis. Let's talk about what is Genesis.
Genesis, I love Genesis, obviously. But Genesis began in 1988. The first CEO was Linda Golden,
Okay.
and she was the founding person of the organization. And it was birthed out of Christ Temple Church.
Oh, so it's a church-based organization.
Well, it was birthed out of our church.
Birthed out of. Okay.
We found that there were people wanting to get clean.
Okay.
This was in the 1980s. This is at the height of the crack cocaine epidemic.
Okay.
But sometimes people who look like you and I, they weren't able to find transitional.
They'd fall through the cracks.
They would fall through the cracks.
Okay.
There weren't always facilities that they could go to, whether it was by means or location.
Uh-huh.
And so we began Genesis in urban Fort Wayne. And the first people that we targeted were Black women.
Okay.
And so that's how it began, and it just grew from there.
Okay. Because the need was great.
The need was great.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk about, we were talking earlier off camera and you started to tell me about the recovery program.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
So the recovery program, that's actually the PLUS program.
All right.
The Positive Living and Understanding Self-Sufficiency. It is the baby, obviously, of Genesis. It is why we are here.
Okay.
And how we began.
All right.
I have a great love for working with the women there. And a lot of times I feel because I can relate to them. So we work with women over 18.
Okay.
We have a mixture of culture and race at Genesis. We primarily work with clients who have DCS cases.
Okay.
And the hope is to help them to reunify with their children,
Okay.
as well as gain sobriety and healthy living.
How important is that?
It's very important. In doing this, you find that there are certain people who are often overlooked
Okay.
or sometimes punished for decisions that they've made, and most of them are just looking for someone to support them.
Okay.
And so at Genesis, we are advocates for our clients. We have the opportunity to go into court and to speak on their behalf because we see them every day.
Okay.
And we can attest to the changes that they're making in their life, to become better mothers and to become healthy and sober individuals, working jobs, 9 to 5s, being able to pay for housing and doing the responsible things as any other adult. And so we walk them through those stages, whether it's encouraging them to participate in therapy, whether it's through the classes that we teach every day. We work hand in hand with them and with DCS to give them the best foundation and the best start possible.
Okay. What other programs do you offer? What else does Genesis offer these women?
Oh my goodness. A lot of them end up in our housing program.
Okay.
The housing program was birthed because of the recovery program.
Okay.
We found when we were getting people clean, sometimes they had to go back to their old environments, and it was difficult to stay clean.
And they'd fall back into the same pattern
into
of
the
behavior.
same cycle. Exactly.
So this was a way to move them out of that environment into a new environment and give them a clean start, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so thus began our housing program,
Okay.
Promising Partnerships, and that program is income-based housing, based upon family size and income.
Okay.
And so we rent to those who, again, are often turned away. People, and it's a community program as well as for our ladies who go through our recovery program.
Okay.
So we have people who have had criminal histories
All
that
right.
don't pass other backgrounds, people who have had multiple evictions.
Now this isn't just women, this is men and women.
This is open to the entire community.
Community. All right.
Yeah, to the entire community. And so we serve those, and we're geared towards those who can't find housing at probably anywhere else.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And again, the need is great.
Mm-hmm.
Right here in Fort Wayne.
It is.
Okay. How does your organization stay afloat?
Well, we are no longer in need of grant funding, which is great.
All right.
Back in the day, that's the only way you could keep things open was through grant funding.
Okay.
But we have independent contracts like with DCS, and then we have a housing contract with the state of Indiana. Some people have like vouchers and things like that. We are definitely not out to make money.
Right.
But
you have to keep your organization going.
We have to keep the organization going, obviously. So we have like rents and everything that are collected and money based off the contracts. And then we do have those who donate to us regularly.
Wonderful. If someone wants to donate, how do they do that?
They can go directly to my website, www.genesisoutreach.org, and there is a tab right on there that says donate.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
And you partner with a lot of organizations here in the city.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about how many people do you serve in the Fort Wayne community? Do you know?
Any given day, over 300.
Oh my
If we look at all of our families and the people in our recovery program, we have over 50 houses.
Okay.
That have families in them. There are only a few that are for individuals, like, single adult households.
And are they throughout the city?
They are throughout the city, but mainly in what we still consider urban Fort Wayne.
Okay.
So we have some on, east side area, urban Fort Wayne and going a little bit south to Paulding Road.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. All right. And let's talk about the theater program.
Okay.
This is
Genesis Presents.
exciting. Genesis Presents. You guys just did Pearly.
We did just do Pearly.
And it went over well.
It was great. I've been in every production. I'm not in the next one.
Because you sing as well.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Do you act?
A little. Just a little.
I think you're being humble.
Yeah, just a little.
Okay, just a little.
So I enjoy. My brother and I, we just, as kids, we love theater.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because it took us to different places, because we love to read, and so we had great imagination. So we always loved theater. And so we've just taken that and brought it into Genesis, and we're using Genesis Present as a way of dealing with social issues sometimes that the things that people don't necessarily like to talk about, the things that make you uncomfortable.
All right.
Like for instance, Pearly, it was staged in the early, I think like 1940s era, and you're talking about a time where blacks obviously have been freed from slavery, but a lot of those labels and the way things were still
Jim and Jane Crow.
Exactly. A lot of Jim Crow, a lot of there wasn't a lot of things for black people at that time.
Not a lot of opportunities.
And so that's what that whole show was about.
Okay.
To kind of show the disparities that we experienced at that time.
Now this was written by Ozzie Davis, is that correct?
Ozzie Davis, yes.
Yes. The wonderful Ozzie Davis.
Yes. Yeah.
God rest his soul. So you guys did Pearly. You've also done some things with First Pres.
Right.
The vagina monologue.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I forgot about
that.
That
was 2018.
Yeah.
I did my research, girl.
Okay.
You also did something else, but I can't think of what the name
of
it was.
We did, oh my goodness, we just did it. Parade.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that last fall in November.
All right.
Yeah,
and you've got something coming up in May.
Yes, Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a real good one.
I'm excited for that.
Are you going to be in it?
No, I'm not in that one.
You're not in that one.
I'm taking a break right now.
Taking a break.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Taking a break.
So that'll be in May.
Right.
And people can look at your website to get more information regarding Jesus Christ Superstar.
Exactly.
Where will it be housed?
I'm not sure.
Not yet.
I don't think it's been announced
Not yet.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm getting a little ahead of myself then. All right. What is the most misunderstood thing about the population you serve?
That they're unredeemable.
That's a word. Yeah. That's a Rhema word right there.
As I said, I deal with women who have made mistakes.
As we all have.
As we all have. And part of our program is teaching them that they're not the mistake that they made. And I think if people ever just stop to have a conversation and hear the story, they probably wouldn't be so judgmental.
Okay.
So I hear some of the most damnable stories.
Okay.
And tragic circumstances and events that many of them have suffered.
Okay.
Either as children or young women or in the midst of their active addiction. They are some of the strongest women I've ever known. If you ever know everything that they've been through, it would be hard to just turn away from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you see Genesis in 5 years?
In 5 years, I would like to see us in a larger facility where I'm able to help more women.
All right.
And maybe adding, different aspects to our program, as far as like medical, things that we would be able to add, whether it's a psychologist on site, being able to give them med opportunities and things like that. I would also like to see our housing program increase. I just want to do whatever we can to serve more people.
Okay.
because every day I get calls and I have to turn people away because we don't have houses. I don't have any units available, or I don't have any beds open in our program. And I know that there are as many programs as there are throughout the city. It's still not enough.
Still not
It's
enough.
still not enough.
My goodness. My goodness. Let's talk again about if someone wants to donate. They can go to your website. They can donate there.
Yes, absolutely.
How about volunteering? If someone wants to volunteer for your organization, can they do that?
They can. They can just give me a call at 260-456-1480.
Okay.
And we would be able to discuss what type of way they can volunteer.
Okay. All right. And getting the court system to listen to you, advocate for these women. Have you seen that enable these women to get their children back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
More of our clients get their children back than those who do not.
All right.
And typically, if they do not, it's because they make the choice that either they're not ready
Okay.
and they go back to active addiction. And sometimes they find that they're not even ready to mother.
All right.
And so, but most of the people who go through our program, when they stick with it, they do get their children back and they reunify.
What is your success rate?
I don't know. I don't look at the numbers.
That's all right.
I don't look at the numbers.
You see
But
the people.
I see the people. I do. And I
Yeah.
see the work.
Yeah.
I know that when I go into the court system, they, when someone says they're at our house, they say, oh, okay, we know you're in good hands.
Oh, wow.
I know that.
That's a testimony right there.
Yes. So I have been given favor with a lot of the judges. And I think partly because they've learned who I am and they know my heart for what I do.
And they've seen your consistency and your diligence.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. How does faith inform your life?
Well, every morning we start our day. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. I am a pew baby, and I know that at every step of my life that God has kind of nudged me in certain ways.
Ordered your steps.
Absolutely.
The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord,
Absolutely.
and he delighteth in his way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But faith is a huge part of who we are. I even tell the girls that when they come to us that I don't believe that it happens by coincidence. They come because God needs them there for however long they're there, because there's something that they need that we have to give to them. And so, and I believe that, and I take it seriously that when they come to me, that there is something that I have to give to them, whether it's they need love, that unconditional love. A lot of them treat me like I'm their mom.
Because they haven't been mothered.
Because they haven't been mothered. And they haven't been loved.
Mother.
A loving mother.
A loving mother.
A loving mother. And sometimes they just can't believe that I can tell them that I love them, but I don't want anything from them. And so I try
Gena,
to do.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. But every day I endeavor to allow God to speak through me when I'm teaching my classes, when we're doing case management, even when we're just having casual conversation throughout the day. And so
they see themselves in you?
They do.
That's what you hope to get them to see?
That's what I want them to see.
That, look, you can be me.
You can be anything that you want to be.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a beautiful story. A beautiful story, a beautiful testament to the power of love, the power of faith, and the power of hope.
Yeah.
The power of hope.
Yeah.
And truly seeing someone.
And I think that's what they need. As I said, they're often overlooked, pushed to the side.
Is it because they're women of color?
No. Most of the women we serve today aren't women of color.
Okay.
But they're just they're just addicts.
Okay.
But a lot of times, because of the decisions that they've made,
Sure.
and the fact that they've lost their children
All right.
due to their addiction,
All right.
people, they demean that, they belittle them.
What is the most misunderstood thing about addiction? People think that you can just walk away from it.
It's not
What's
that
the
easy.
most misunderstood thing about addiction?
I think people think that it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there are those who they've decided they don't want to do anything other than that. But for many of them, it's like they don't have a choice. In their brain, our brains tell us we have to eat, we have to sleep, and things like that. But their brain tells them above everything, above my children, above eating, above sleeping, I have to get high.
They have to get that fixed.
They have to get that need filled. Mm-hmm. And it is the most important thing. It's not that they don't love their children, but their brain is telling them, I love them, but this is still more important.
It's that dopamine rush?
The dopamine. Absolutely. That's part of it.
Okay.
Absolutely. It changes the brain.
Okay.
It's a brain disease.
Okay.
And I think oftentimes people look at it like it's something that can be helped. Like you can just stop.
Right.
You can just will it to stop.
Right.
And it's not that easy.
That's not the way it works.
No.
And so that is the most misunderstood thing about
Absolutely.
chemical addiction.
Absolutely.
Okay. How long have you been clean and sober?
Let me see. Since it's been almost 25 years.
You don't look like the fire you've come through, ma'am. You don't look like the fire you've come through, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank you. I didn't expect to become emotional, but you've been so vulnerable and so genuine and so honest and earnest. And it would be easy for you to sashay in here looking perfect and tell a different tale. But you got real.
Yes.
You got real with us. And you shared your own journey.
Yes.
And that means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling us about the women that are right here in our community that need help. And you are there to help them and telling us how we can help them by donating.
Absolutely.
I am excited to see what the Lord does next in your life, Miss Lady.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in, and be blessed.